Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's that time again. We're doing our first discussion of all the books I read for 2026. This is everything I read in January. I do not have any physical books with me. I only have ebooks, so there are no props for you. It must suck to be you. If you're new here, usually what I do is I rank all the books I read, and then I talk about them in order. I'll give you a little summary, if I remember, and I'll give you my star rating if I remember that. I didn't write them down this time because I'm a goober. I read 6 books, 5 fiction, 1 nonfiction, and they were all on Kindle Unlimited. I pretty much liked I liked everything I read this month. There weren't really any standouts. So this was really difficult because I kind of all just want to rank them the same. I think the highest I gave something was 4 stars, and the lowest was 3. So in a pretty sweet spot right there. So number 6 at the bottom of the list, what I think is my least favorite thing I read this month, is Ring Shout by P. Djèlí Clark. This is a novella, which honestly is pretty much the reason it's at the end. Spoiler alert. This is basically an alternate history in which it's the American South in the 1920s, and the KKK are powered by demons that feed on their hate and turn them into monsters. And the main character is a young black woman who fights them with a sword. The concept of this is so cool, and the horror in it, chef's kiss. The horror was my favorite part of this book. It was like, I can handle a lot. I was reading this at night and I had to stop. Like, I had to take a break. So it was really great. The thing that really made me rate it as 3 stars as opposed to 4 or even 5 is the pacing. The pacing just did not feel... It didn't feel right. There would be a lot of action and then a lot of just few chapters where nothing really happened, which in a novella can really make or break it. And because it was maybe 200 pages, it felt like there was so much world building, and then it just didn't have enough space to execute it properly. So it was really good, and I am definitely going to read more from this author. Just the pacing just wasn't quite right, and that really knocked it down for me. But still very good, and I would recommend it. It was really interesting. So number 5 is... I only read this because it was like the top fantasy book on Kindle Unlimited right now. But it's the first book in the Dungeon Crawler Carl series by Matt Dinniman. And basically it's just what if the apocalypse happened and the Hunger Games happened, except it was D&D. Like, it is basically this random guy gets put into a video game. That's it. He just becomes Baldur's Gate. And it was fun. I think I read it in 3 or 4 days. I cannot tell you a single thing that happened. I remember liking the cat. I remember wanting to read the other book and then taking a break to read something else. It was good. I would recommend it, but I cannot tell you a single thing that happened. I think I gave it 3.5 stars. No clue. No clue what happened. Could not tell you. So, take that with a grain of salt. Number 4 is a book I actually meant to read last year. It's called Beauty is a Wound by, I think it's Kurniawan. So this is an Indonesian author, and this is a multi-generational story about basically the last 100 years in Indonesia. So it covers the Dutch occupation and World War II, I believe, and then the War for Independence, and then the rise of communism, and transition of Indonesia into a tourism spot. Like, it covers a lot of history, and it was really interesting and really well put together. Like, it was focused on one family, but it also did a really good job of hopping between all the people in the town. So it really was kind of a multi-generational story about this town. It reminded me of House of the Spirits by Isabel Allende, which I loved. House of the Spirits. Like, it was that level of masterpiece of work. So if you've read House of the Spirits and you'd like another book like that, I would recommend this. The only thing I will say is there is a lot of sexual violence. A lot of sexual violence, to the point that I have a pretty strong stomach for that sort of thing, and it was too much for me at certain points. So just if that's something you are sensitive, even if you're not sensitive about it, just know going in that it's going to be a lot, but especially if it's a major trigger warning for you, maybe don't read it. As like a narrative, as a work of fiction, it was gorgeously put together, and it's one of those books that it's like I've never really read anything like it except for House of the Spirits. But so number 3 is Cultish, The Language of Fanaticism by Amanda Montell. This is nonfiction, and it's basically, she's a linguist, and she's talking about the rhetoric used in cults and connecting actual, fringe religious groups that are dangerous, or what we think of as cults, so Jim Jones, to also more acceptable cults like Scientology, and then things like cult-like communities like workout groups, and showing how the language is the thing that makes them cult-like, but also showing that the language isn't the thing that's harmful necessarily. So it's really about how language is kind of a tool to form groups and bring people together. There are people out there who can figure out how to exploit that. What was really interesting, what was my critique of this? There were times when she was talking a little bit too much about the history of cults instead of the language, which is kind of what you expect the book to be about. But I do think like at a certain point, it's just kind of, I guess, for her writing it, it got repetitive because they were just the same tactics, the same rhetorical strategies over and over. But I did really enjoy it, and I think my favorite thing I learned from it, which I will share with you all, I believe she called them thought-ending cliches. And they're basically these phrases that we all use them, but they end the conversation and they don't open it back up. So, like, the one that we all kind of just use generally, universally, is like, everything happens for a reason, which, may be comforting for us because it means we don't have to think about how, our actions may lead to us losing our job or losing our house or having something horrible happen to us, and there not being a reason for it. Like, it's very comforting to think that, but it doesn't allow you to have an open conversation about those things and what you should do and the possibility of that happening. So cult leaders will use things like, well, you're just not enlightened enough to understand my argument, whenever you critique them, to keep themselves in power, to keep people from criticizing them. And that is a little phrase I'm gonna keep in my back pocket, because that is like a rhetorical strategy that I immediately knew what she was talking about, but I didn't have a name for it. So I'm very happy to have a name for that now. That's very helpful for me. So I think I gave that 3 or 3.5, something like that. I don't remember exactly. I did really enjoy that one. So number 2 is The Starving Saints by Caitlin Starling. This is medieval horror where this castle is at siege against an enemy, and they're starving. The food has run out, and then all of a sudden these magical saints show up, and they're bearing food and bringing gifts kind of out of nowhere, and everyone's like, oh, this is a miracle, and the main characters are like, this doesn't seem right. It's horror and fantasy a little bit. I didn't realize until I was maybe 10% into this book, and I looked her up because something seemed familiar, but Caitlin Starling also wrote The Luminous Dead, which is a sci-fi horror about a cave diver on another planet, and she gets trapped in the cave, essentially, and the entire book is her working her way out. And that book, ooh, I still think about that book. Like, I can never read something like that again. That terrified me. That gave me the big ol' goosebumps. I did like this one. I don't think it was as just bone-chilling as The Luminous Dead, but it was very good. The main characters were all good. It was very, very gay. I saw critiques of it being like it wasn't gory enough. I thought the gore was okay. I think it for the story she was trying to tell, I think it was appropriate. There was part at the end where I just had no idea what was going on, but I think that was kind of the intention. I think it was supposed to feel like a fever dream. So it does depend on if you enjoy reading stuff like that where you're not supposed to understand what's going on. But yeah, it was very good. I was very locked in for parts of it, and parts of it really did give me the heebie-jeebies. So I think I gave that 4 stars. I'm not 100% sure, but I think I gave that 4 stars. I need to now, I think her other book is called The Death of Jane Lawrence. I haven't read that one. I need to read that now. That I know that this is an author that can do a lot of different things. And then number 1 is The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. I just finished this book, and I gave it 4 stars. End of that book is devastating. I'm gonna read the next one. I just need a break. I'm trying to think of like what I can say to capture how I feel about this. I think my only critique of it is just at certain points it did feel like it made sense, but it did kind of feel like she was just like, I made this whole entire world and I want you to know everything about it. And so there were parts that felt a little info-dumpy, but it's fine. It's fine. It also, like, it's a brutal story about war, and it takes a lot of evidence from real wars that happened in 20th century China and Japan, I think, and applies them to this fantasy world. So a lot of it is, there are parts of it that are very, very brutal, like, but it also didn't overstay its welcome. Like, it was like, here's, like, this is a horrible thing that happened. This is a disgusting thing that happened. But it didn't, like, turn it into trauma porn, essentially, which a lot of other authors would have done. I have read by R.F. Kuang now, Yellowface and Babel, and I liked both of those. So I do think that she is now kind of a immediate buy author for me. She's great. Love her. Oh my god. If you've read it, you know exactly what I'm reacting to. But, we'll see how I feel. We'll see how I feel. Next month after I read, Dragon Republic, I think is book 2, because I am gonna read it, but oh. So yeah, those are my 6 books. And then I'm still only reading stuff on Kindle Unlimited right now, so I'm gonna open my Kindle. My beautiful, beautiful Kindle. Right now I am reading Snake Eater by T. Kingfisher. T. Kingfisher is another author I love. Snake Eater I'm about a quarter through, and I really like it so far. Best character is Copper, obviously. We're definitely going to read Dragon Republic next month. We're going to read The Sirens by Amelia Hart. I really liked Wayward, her first book. I also have on here Wild Reverence by Rebecca Ross, which is related to, oh my god, Divine Rivals, is that the name of those books? Anyway, her duology about the journalists in the magical world, loved that. Loved that duology so much. So, and then I have a couple horror books, but I don't have them downloaded yet. So we'll see. That was my discussion of books for the month. Let me know what you guys read this month in the comments. Did you start 2026 strong? How many books did you read? What'd you think about them? Have you read any of the books that I read? Do you have thoughts about them? Did you also have to sit and stare at the wall for a bit after you finished the Poppy War? Let me know. I put out new videos every Wednesday, so subscribe and come hang out. We have fun. Sometimes I talk about books, sometimes I talk about writing or crocheting or crafting, because I have too many hobbies. So come hang out. Happy to have you. If you want to see more about what I'm reading, I have a Fable account that I have in the description. Welcome to check that out. Go follow me. I'll follow you back. We have fun. You can also follow me on TikTok, because I occasionally post on TikTok. Other than that, I'll see you guys next week. I don't know what I'm doing next week. Let me know. Tell me what you want. Tell me, please. Anyway, bye.